Tonight, government directs COCOBOD to pay all unpaid farmers, slashing Farmgate price from 58,000 cedis per ton to 41,392 cedis per ton for the remainder of the season as part of sweeping reforms in Ghana's cocoa sector.
To bring relief to unpaid cocoa farmers, Cabinet has accordingly directed the Ghana Cocoa Board to commence immediate repayment of all affected cocoa farmers. Cabinet has also directed that beginning from 2026 to 2027 crop season, a minimum of 50% of all cocoa beans should be processed locally. The new producer price for the remainder of the 2025-2026 crop season will now be 41,392 Ghana cedis per ton and 2,587 Ghana cedis per bag.
Well, we have more as we take you live to Parliament for the latest from the minority who are tearing into the John Mahama government's reforms, demanding the sack of COCOBOD CEO Dr. Randy Abbey.
And that is why, respectfully, we ask the President to relieve the COCOBOD CEO of his responsibilities at this point in time. We are asking the government that in previous times when cocoa prices fell and the government absorbed the shock and protected the cocoa farmer.
Stay for all the reactions from cocoa farmers, buyers, and experts here on Top Story, as well as hearing from government as well. And Top Story, as always, is brought to you by Telecel, connecting energies, holy insecticide spray and coil. Enjoy holy sleep and short pension trust into the future with you. Tonight, the Ghana Cocoa Board has come under strict directive to with immediate effect pay all cocoa farmers who have been owed billions of cedis over the period. This was contained in the Minister of Finance, Dr. Casey Latofosin's announcement of series of government reform decisions following recent challenges affecting the cocoa sector. First, listen to the Finance Minister, who indicates that Ghana's cocoa sector crashed in 2023 due to the failure of COCOBOD to meet its obligation to investors, resulting from a 45% production.
For the first time in the history of the cocoa industry, in 2023, the annual syndicated suffered significant delays due to the loss of confidence in the Ghanaian economy and the sector. The first tranche was received on 22nd December 2023, 4 months after the commencement of the season. COCOBOD projected an output of 800,000 tons and committed 786,672 tons in contracts in 2023 and 2024 crop season. However, actual production was 432,145 tons, a deviation of over 45% from the projected output. Variation in crop forecasts typically vary between 5 to 15%. Hence, a deviation of 45% was unprecedented and unacceptable. This resulted in a huge rollover contract of about 333,767 tons at an average price of $2,661 per ton. This resulted in a loss of over $1 billion United States dollars, which would have gone to the cocoa farmer or other stakeholders. In 2024, COCOBOD could not pay the final tranche of the syndicated loan, which was due in July 2024, and received a $70 million United States dollar bridge finance from the Ministry of Finance to avert a default. Despite a commitment to repay the $70 million bridge finance owed to the Ministry of Finance, COCOBOD defaulted, highlighting the dire financial strait of the organization at the time. This debt has since been inherited by the current administration and the current management of the Ghana Cocoa Board.
Well, Dr. Casey Latofosin then goes ahead to outline the new reforms sanctioned by Cabinet, including directive for immediate payment of farmers who are owed, a new automatic price adjustment formula, and financing model.
To bring relief to unpaid cocoa farmers, Cabinet has accordingly directed the Ghana Cocoa Board to commence immediate repayment of all affected cocoa farmers. 2. A new COCOBOD bill will be presented to Parliament to implement an automatic adjustment of producer price to align with movement in the world market price, exchange rate, and other key variables, and guarantees a minimum of 70% of gross FOB price to be paid to the cocoa farmer. A new financing model for cocoa purchases and related operations with associated benefit for increased processing will be introduced effective 2026-2027 crop season. The current financing model was invented as a necessity after the syndicated loan failed, after 32 years of successful implementation, and it was proven not to be sustainable. In fact, it has proven not to be sustainable. The financing model is entirely dependent on a buyer's willingness to bear the financing costs and to pre-finance the purchase of cocoa. The key motivation for buyers in the previous season was the rollover contract priced at a rate of $2,661 per metric ton, when the existing market price were above $8,000 per metric ton. Once the gap between the rollover contract and the market price closes, and the majority of the rollover contract are serviced, the buyer will not be willing to pre-finance the purchase of cocoa crop. Alternatively, the previous syndicated loan model requires that COCOBOD sells forward most of the raw beans to lock in the contract, which repays the loan and serves as collateral as well. This system did not allow COCOBOD to optimize prices on the market. In addition, the use of raw beans contract as collateral for the loan meant that Ghana could not optimize its installed capacity for processing. The new financing model will utilize domestic cocoa beans to purchase cocoa. The new financing model will utilize domestic cocoa bonds to purchase cocoa and repay the cocoa proceeds within each crop year.
Well, in the midst of all of this, however, government has taken the decision to slash the producer price from 3,625 Ghana cedis to 2,587 cedis per 64 kg bag.
Price has dropped significantly from the average of 7,200 tons to 4,100 per ton, making Ghana's cocoa beans uncompetitive and creating liquidity challenges. To address this, the Producer Price Review Committee, PPRC, met this afternoon under my chairmanship to assess the challenges facing the sector and review the producer price for the remainder of the 2025-2026 crop year. In order to cushion the farmer, the PPRC has recommended that the farmer be paid 90% of the achieved gross FOB of $4,200 per ton to mitigate the adverse impact on the farmer as a result of the fall in the world market price. As a result of that, the PPRC thereby announces that effective today, Thursday, 12 February 2026, the new producer price for the remainder of the 2025-2026 crop season will now be 41,392 Ghana cedis per ton and 2,587 Ghana cedis per bag. This measure has become necessary to reflect the reality of the world market price of cocoa, ensure the injection of immediate liquidity for expedited payment of farmers, and guarantee the sustainability of our cocoa sector.
Meanwhile, the finance minister has revealed that government is going after managers of COCOBOD in the last 8 years to answer for some alleged mismanagement of the sector.
From 2014 to 2024, COCOBOD awarded cocoa contracts of up to 26.5 billion Ghana cedis, with 21.5 billion Ghana cedis of contracts awarded between 2018 and 2021. Despite an agreement under the IMF program in 2023 to rationalize COCOBOD's commitment of 21.7 billion Ghana cedis to 6.9 billion, the previous board and management of COCOBOD failed to conduct this exercise. The exercise has subsequently been completed under the supervision of the Ministry of Finance and the minister responsible for roads. The Minister of Roads and COCOBOD jointly conducted this rationalization exercise to reduce the exposure on cocoa roads. Upon the completion of the exercise, the total exposure of 21.7 billion Ghana cedis has since been reduced to 5 billion Ghana cedis. Cabinet has directed that the liabilities of the 4.35 billion be transferred to the Ministry of Roads and Ministry of Finance for payment. Cabinet noted that road construction account to a significant part of the financial difficulties of COCOBOD. And this is important, let me stress. Cabinet also noted that road construction accounts for a significant part of the financial difficulties that COCOBOD is facing at the moment.
So that is the Finance Minister, Keselato Fossen there. We'll hear from the minority shortly, but let's first have a chat with my colleague Caleb Ziblim, who's just returning from the Finance Ministry, to put this to better perspective. Caleb, I'll come to you, but I want listeners to listen to the Finance Minister and what he said during the campaign of 2024.
Inti abana nambum dama banizi nitrimi yezendodo dama bani on dwene kwafo mo ho da me pada me ka kira mo ide President Mahama se men ka kira mo de oyenya me na duma NDC baba bem na ye ba bem akoko no ye botum papa bi mo akoma atomu yem na enya de ye tumu keke fertilizer and ye baba bio ye bama mu free koko akwan ye botwa ne free spray ye bama mu free ye de momba boko school so aka ho adi bi osafate bi ode ye bia ye be ya ma koko kwafo osanda Ghana enye Ghana be Ghana ofi koko.
So that was the Finance Minister in 2024, and what he was basically saying was that the MPP government was a very terrible one when it came to management of the cocoa, and that President Mahama is assuring them that definitely the NDC will come to power. When they come, they would make sure that cocoa farmers really enjoy, and that when it comes to increment, they will increase it, and always increase it. And the fact that they will also do the cocoa roads, they will make sure they give scholarships to their children and all of that. That's what he said when they were campaigning in 2024. Caleb, I mean, we've heard about the reduction in prices, right? Did they give the exact reason why they needed to take this decision?
Yes, Brace. So we've been talking about this all day. The price of cocoa in the international markets has been plummeting, and then currently the international price of cocoa is about $3,000, and let's say over $3,000 per ton. But Ghana's price was $5,200 per ton. So that mismatch alone means that buyers are not coming to get Ghana's cocoa.
So it's been reduced from how much? So
now it's been reduced from a little over $5,000 per ton to just under $4,000 per ton.
Okay.
And if you do the math, that's about 28% reduction. So if you compare that to the price of cocoa on the world market, it's almost in line with that. So we can now be competitive. But then the most important thing is that even though we've reduced our cocoa Farmgate prices to international levels, the finance minister said that we're not going to export cocoa beans for the rest of the season.
Okay.
So the entire cocoa that's going to be bought is going to be processed in the country. And after that, we don't know what's going to happen to the processed cocoa beans. But he did mention that we're not going to export cocoa beans for the rest of the season.
Okay. Now, Cabinet has directed COCOBOD to pay affected farmers. Where exactly will the money be coming from? Did they give any indication of that?
Yes. So we asked this question to the finance minister, and he answered that COCOBOD is going to provide the funds to pay the farmers. So from the finance minister's answer, the government is not come to support COCOBOD in this moment. COCOBOD is going to find the money themselves. But then the new agreement is that because COCOBOD, Ghana's cocoa beans are going to be processed, the cocoa processing companies in Ghana will then buy the cocoa beans from COCOBOD. So the cocoa beans will be taken to COCOBOD. COCOBOD will provide the processing companies with the cocoa beans for processing. And once the cocoa processing companies pay COCOBOD, COCOBOD then pay the farmers. So the financing primarily is going to come from local sources. That's our local processing companies.
Now, we understand that there are other reforms that government announced in today's briefing. And can you break that down for us?
Okay, so I think before this spoken about the fact that we're not going to export beans for the rest of the season. Also, the government says moving forward, about 50% of Ghana's beans will not be exported anymore. We're going to process them before any exporting. The second most important thing I think he mentioned was the fact that we are going to float cocoa bonds or cocoa bonds from the COCOBOD. So a question was asked whether this the cocoa bonds will come from the government or from COCOBOD's books, and the finance minister said it's going to come from COCOBOD's books. Now, if you look through if you look at the books of COCOBOD, they're in a very bad situation, and no investor is going to give COCOBOD money based on their current liability situation. So the finance minister addressed that, and he said some of the liabilities that COCOBOD has with the finance ministry and the BOG, the government is going to take care of that. Go to parliament and have that liability that COCOBOD has with BOG and the finance ministry. They'll take care of that. Again, COCOBOD has some liabilities in the road sector because of the cocoa roads and all of that. He has the finance minister said he has spoken with the roads minister, and they've agreed to transfer that liability from COCOBOD's books to the roads ministry. And then again, in the 2026 budget, the minister said that he had secured funding for cocoa roads, for roads around the cocoa growing areas. So that's going to use to take off the money from COCOBOD's books and onto the roads ministry. So we're going to have cocoa bonds now coming from the finance ministry, but we don't know the operational details, especially because we had cocoa bills in the past and they had to be restructured. So we have to talk about the interest rates on the upcoming bonds, whether investors will buy into it, how they are going to sell the bonds, and the maturity dates and all of that. So I think these are the important factors that the finance minister mentioned.
I'm grateful to you, Caleb Sibling there. But just after government's announcement, the minority in parliament have been addressing the issue, and they are demanding the immediate dismissal of COCOBOD Chief Executive Dr. Randy Abbey, following what they describe as a steep and unjustified reduction in cocoa prices, slashed by more than 1,000 cedis per bag. Addressing a news conference, the minority said government has incompetently handled the cocoa payment crisis, particularly after a raft of measures announced earlier today by Finance Minister. Minority spokesperson on cocoa affairs, Dr. Isaac Yaopoku, accused government of treating cocoa farmers with contempt and failing to protect the backbone of the economy.
3,625. Yesterday, when the emergency cabinet meeting was called, we were expecting that the president was going to give a directive that the finance minister should find money to pay cocoa farmers who have sold their produce to the license buying companies. This morning, we were waiting for the press conference at 11 o'clock. It didn't happen. 1 o'clock, it didn't happen. It started somewhere around 2:30 thereabout, only to hear that the producer price has been slashed by more than 1,000 Ghana cedis. 10 million. From 3,625 to 2,587. This has never, ever happened in the history of this country. Why are we treating cocoa farmers this way? Why? Cocoa farmer has never enjoyed the full benefit of the FOB. Never ever. Sometimes we even pay them 40%. Cocoa farmer has sacrificed for this country. And in fact, if the cocoa farmers' Farmgate price is going to be reduced by almost 30%, then everybody's pay in this country should also be slashed by that margin. Is the chief executive officer of COCOBOD, his allowance and salary, is it going to be slashed by the same margin? I am sad.
Well, let's bring in Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent Kweku Asante, who joins us with details. Kweku, former Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam also spoke at this news conference, accusing the IMF of sleeping on the job and allowing government to mismanage the cocoa sector. What were his basis for that?
Well, Brace, according to the former finance minister, prior to Ghana entering the current IMF deal that the country is under, the NPP government at the time had some agreement with the IMF on how to manage the cocoa sector. He says the IMF is watching on as the NDC government tears into that plan and program and completely mismanaging the sector.
I am even surprised that the IMF is sleeping over this, because we developed this strategy in consultation with the IMF as a requirement, one of the requirements for implementing the IMF program. I'm really surprised that the IMF has gone to sleep on this. And this government is recklessly managing the cocoa sector, which has brought us to this unprecedented crisis in the sector. Given the scale of the crisis in the sector now, a sector which is one of the most important pillars of our economy, one expected the government to give COCOBOD a bailout, as we did during the MPP time, rather than reducing the producer price for cocoa. A bailout would have been necessary rather than reducing the producer price for cocoa. A bailout would have been necessary, particularly at the time we are told that the economy is strong and resilient.
Now, Kweku, let's now turn our attention to their specific demands and why they describe the price reduction as a haircut for cocoa farmers.
To be out of COCOBOD as CEO, this is completely not fit for the job. He's mismanaged the sector. But also, secondly, they want government to revert to the old prices that were in force prior to the finance minister making the announcement he did this afternoon.
Cocoa sector have reset the trading program of COCOBOD. We used to sell about 70% on forward sales and 30% on spot. They argued that that was an incompetent approach and decided to change it. And now they are selling about 70% on spot. That is why today, as prices have dipped, they are struggling and are saying that the price they had announced ends up being higher than the current prices on the market. That's number one. This action to announce a 28% reduction in the price amounts to a haircut of about 28% on close to 1 million Ghanaian cocoa farmers. Already, when you go into the cocoa growing areas, I was in my areas just a few days ago. A lot of young people are already not going into cocoa because they say the older folk who went into it, they don't see a transformation in their lives. It's left with the old, elderly, poor on the farms. When you do this, what is going to happen in subsequent years is that even those ones will not be going into the cocoa production. If they won't sell their cocoa farms to Galamsey operators, God knows what they will do. All of this has come about because of the reset that COCOBOD did.
Let's now go onto the phone lines now and bring in Samuel Adomado, who is the president of Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association of Ghana. I'm sure that two key things will be important to you: the order for immediate payment and the slash in producer price. What's your reaction?
Thank you, my brother, and then thanks to your listeners. I hope you can hear me.
Barely, I can hear you.
Yes, yeah. Barely a week ago, we had a press conference based on the concerns farmers raised that we had borrowed their cocoa and are refusing to pay. And I think on the various platforms, I indicated what emanated in the perception that, or in the act that we have borrowed. As I indicated, for the past 7 years, LBCs have pre-financed the Ghanaian cocoa industry. And I did also indicate that 2023-24, that $500 million was never used for cocoa. We borrowed, financed cocoa. It took 9 months, more than 9 months, and even unprecedented. One of our members who also financed cocoa in the 2024 cocoa season, which was not the NDC government, has not still been paid. So we wanted government, we appealed to government to pay us so that we pay the farmers who happen to have delivered cocoa and we have not paid them. And then also the chunk of this amount is also to pay the banks that we have borrowed money for.
So I wanted your reaction to the announcement by government.
I'm coming in. Let me explain. So you know that we all know that the terminal price has dropped. The CEO of COCOBOD was clear that our cocoa is so expensive. We have priced our cocoa, and therefore we have priced ourselves out of the market. But let me indicate what the minister said. The minister did not say the FOB price that the farmer will get not less than 70%. The minister says the terminal price. The terminal price, the farmer under no situation should he get less than 70% of the terminal price. And the terminal price is the price that sits in the New York Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange. So any flip, the farmer benefits. Now I said I don't work at COCOBOD. All that COCOBOD needs to do is to work the nitty-gritty that when the price flips upwards, what will be the farmers 70%? Now,
okay, so just to understand your point, you are accepting what the government has proposed today, right?
Indicate that I must indicate that if you say the cocoa is food, cocoa is food.
I mean, sorry,
and
but hello, sir, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. So I just want to find out from you whether these are something that you accept as an association, and then we can make progress.
Yes. We went to government for government to pay us, and then for us to pay our farmers and the banks. That was our proposal, clear point. But in addressing it as a policy framework, this recommend, because we recommended that there should be the cocoa pricing mechanism act should be implemented.
Okay.
So at that meeting, we had farmers representatives there. Farmers presented a very splendid position in addressing that.
Okay.
Of course,
we have
the question was that if you maintain the same price, there would be till the season ends. Of course, there will be reverse smuggling, and the money that you could have used to build hospitals or do something for the community, you use it to subsidize the reverse smuggled in cocoa economy, which the country will not benefit.
So that's Samuel Adimado, President of Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association of Ghana. Let's bring in Patrick Jaffet Danso. He is a cocoa farmer. Jaffet, how are you also receiving the reforms as announced by the minister?
Thank you very much. Yeah. So what I heard from the minister, I think the things are in the right direction, if and only if it is going to work in reality.
So for the reduction, you are okay because it's going to save the country as well, right?
Yeah. So looking at the price at the world market and then what the minister also said, I think it is going to help the economy of the country.
Were you the one we spoke to yesterday on Top Story?
Yes, please.
I remember you saying farmers will not tolerate any reduction.
Yes.
But
I said it, but so what I listened to the Minister of Finance myself this afternoon. So the explanations that were given, personally, I like it. But as I said yesterday, it left with those excuses to see the illiterate farmers among us who do not understand some of these terms, who are going to find it. And even as now that I'm speaking with you, I've been talking with some of the farmers and they agree, but now there is nothing we can do about it. So they're hoping that what they have said, they are going to work out for us. The money that they said they were using in these supposed rules, construction and so forth, in fact, it's something terrible. Like if they need to withdraw it, as they have said, it is going to help a lot, and we look the way forward.
Okay, all right. I'm grateful for you. So farmers, on their reaction on this particular announcement by government. We've been joined by Thomas Ampeminyako, his Deputy Finance Minister. I'm grateful to you for joining us here. Now, we've all been told that the COCOBOD is not in good stead. So the Minister of Finance providing purchase cocoa. Hello, Mr. Ampeminyako. Do I have you? Hello, sir. Thomas Ampeminyako is Deputy Finance Minister. Let's try and see if we do have him. Mr. Nyako, if I have you, I want to find out from you whether the Finance Ministry is providing COCOBOD with the funds to purchase cocoa for the remainder of the season. Okay, let me try again if I can, because I know that he's on there. Mr. Ampeminyako, do I still have you? If I do have you, I just want to find out from you whether or not you are the one providing COCOBOD with the funds to purchase cocoa for the remainder of the season. All right, so we're trying to get the Deputy Minister. I'm told he's on now. I'm grateful for you to join us here. We want to find out from you whether the Ministry of Finance will be providing funds to purchase cocoa for the remainder of the season. Hello, Mr. Ampeminyako.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah,
Yes. Am I on air?
Yes, you're on air. We wanted
Jesus
to.
Christ.
Okay, all right then. Let's try. We're trying our best to get him to really understand what's going to happen. Mr. Ampemiako, thank you for joining us here. Now, we want to understand per COCOBOD's situation. Will the finance ministry be the one providing it with funds to purchase cocoa for the remainder of the season?
We are facilitating and assisting COCOBOD to be able to purchase the cocoa that is locked up currently. And background, you are all aware of the drastic reduction in the world market price of cocoa currently, and that has necessitated some action that has to be taken. Pricing of cocoa for our cocoa producers is a function of mainly the world market price and the exchange rate.
So if you say you are if you say you are facilitating, what exactly are you doing?
You see, COCOBOD has been hit with this challenge, and so since yesterday, the president has called for a crunch cabinet meeting to find a lasting solution to the problem that COCOBOD is facing. There is some 50,000 tons of cocoa that COCOBOD or from farmers that hasn't been able to find buyers because our prices are. Government has agreed with cocoa. The price that was agreed with them earlier to that means that COCOBOD is going to make huge losses of about $150 million. Government is absorbing that cost. So when I say government is assisting COCOBOD to fix the problem, that is part of it.
Okay, I'm grateful to you.
Secondly, this cocoa season, we projected to buy about 650,000 tons. If you add the 50,000 tons that is currently locked up to what has already been bought from farmers and sold, we have a gap of about 70,000 tons that we are suspecting are with farmers and are yet to be delivered. The decision that government has agreed with COCOBOD is that everybody must take a cut. COCOBOD should immediately resume buying of cocoa, but this one will be at a reduced price.
Okay.
And
I'm grateful.
COCOBOD should
I'm grateful to
buy at 90% and give 90% of the FOB price to the farmers.
I'm grateful to you. Thomas Ampemiako is Deputy Finance Minister. We'll have to end it here. There is a national dialogue on Joy News concerning the documentary brought to you on tax for galamsey. How do we really deal with the issue? Those who have been placed at the helm of affairs to help us deal with this issue, how are they contributing to how the situation is thriving, and how do we deal with it? Join us here on Joy 99.7 FM and also on Joy News whilst